Hey everybody, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and today I'm reviewing Mass Effect Priority Hagalaz. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Disclaimer that I received a review copy of this one. 4 characters will move around on these tactical maps contained in a book that also has special information for each mission. In a branching mission campaign structure with different main missions you complete and also optional loyalty missions you can do to level your characters up. Each of the 4 characters you bring with you has their own sheet with special places for dice, because you're rolling and using dice from a large pool to activate these effects. That'll move you around the map, attack, and you can level up into more abilities as the campaign goes on. So let's talk about 5 key things to know about Mass Effect. So for my number 5, I'm focusing on the campaign structure, and this is a bit of a mix. On the positive side, I myself like short campaigns, so having just 3 to 5 missions, because the loyalty ones are optional, is a pretty quick play. And I like that there is branching here. I'm going to talk about the mission variety itself later, but the idea that I can really play through this 3, 4, maybe 5 times and still have new stuff to see, including different loyalty missions, is pretty awesome. But on the negative side, as you go through the missions, you're reading in this little narrative book, and they have these very quick paragraphs that don't really add that much in terms of like emotion or a linear storyline. And also, all this isn't a problem for me because I've played the video games. They don't give you almost any context on who these characters are or what the heck is going on. They throw lots of Mass Effect terms at you. So if you have not played Mass Effect, I imagine a lot of this will seem like gobbledygook. Next, for my number 4 point, and this one is a full pro for my taste. I'm looking at the scenario design itself. And as I mentioned, there are a bunch of these, and I do love these map books. So each one has its own book right there. Each one has all the rules for it here, so it's nice and easy to set up and play. And there's some pretty good variety here. First of all, you have 2 different factions that you'll be playing against with their own sets of units and special abilities from card activations. The maps themselves are varied, sometimes having different terrain effects or having high and low elevation. And probably the coolest things are the different objectives, because you often have a 2-step objective to complete a mission, and then you have a renegade and paragon, kind of a harder and easier final objective to complete, and they'll earn you different rewards going forward in the campaign. So I think all of that is really cool. Just a minor quibble, though, I have noticed in some of the missions I've played that the paragon one, which is supposed to be harder, actually seems like easier and more straightforward than the other one. And also just sometimes the balance in missions seems a little weird. Like some of them have been overly easy, especially ones where you have to just kill a boss, because it's pretty easy to just get them in between all your guys and spam attacks on them. My number 3 point is looking at the characters and the leveling system. And for me, this is a overall pro for my taste. So each of the characters is different in a lot of cool ways. They have an ongoing special ability for when you roll stars on the dice that does something unique for each of them. Like Rex here flips over these rage tokens and can do a ton of damage to people around him. They also have very different action spaces, very different level ups, so that's super cool. The only small complaint here is that you only have 5 characters in the game and you use 4 of them in the campaign. So on replays, you are going to see a lot of the same characters quite often. And that's both another positive and negative, mostly positive. I do love the leveling up, and you have like prereqs, you get these really super powerful abilities, but you have to earn something else first. But again, on the very minorly negative side, I have found that you tend to level up pretty frequently in every mission. Like I haven't had a single mission where every character didn't level up, which is what you want to happen, but it does mean that in the 2 campaigns I've played, basically everyone is leveled up fully and kind of in a similar way. So I'm not sure how great the replay value is if you want to see different characters doing different things. Next, for my number 2, I'm looking at the enemies and the spawning and kind of the enemy activation. And this is another mix for my taste. So you'll have a bunch of enemies on the board in the spawn spaces, and after each player's turn, you'll flip a card and it'll activate some enemies and then spawn more. And there's a pretty straightforward system. You're never quite sure who's going to go and where they're going to move. But their activation is usually pretty simple. They just move 2 towards the nearest person, or if they're already adjacent to them or have long range, they can attack them. I mean, yes, sometimes when the board gets full, it can be a little bit annoying to move them all, but that's a minor complaint. What I'm a little bit more ambivalent about is the spawning, because there's just a ton of spawning in the game. And I've had many missions where just like the entire board kind of gets like full of people. And yes, you can kill them, but then after pretty much every character's play, you're going to spawn generally 1 or 2 characters. So it can feel a bit like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back as you fight them on and on. Now, don't get me wrong, you need the enemies there to keep things tense. You level up from killing them. It's just that, yeah, I've found like in some missions, in some situations, the enemy spawning gets to be a little bit of a drag, makes things feel like they slow down in pacing too much. And my final point for the game, the most important thing that you'll be doing most often, is the dice activation system. And this is also a mix for my taste. So there are a lot of interesting kind of unique things going on here. You'll roll 12 dice for the first character to activate, and then they'll use 3 of them to go on their action spaces. But that means the next character will only have 9 dice, and the next character will only have 6, and then the final character will only have 3. And this is mostly a cool thing, I think. It does feel a little bit weak when you're the final player with 3 and you have so fewer options and kind of mitigation of your rolls. But I do like that there's kind of an ebb and flow in your turns, and that you have like really big turns where you can do lots of stuff and turns where you're a little bit weaker. There is a luck element, not very much in the actual symbols you roll, because I find at least that I tend to roll everything I need. I mean, you do want these darker action spaces more than the lighter ones. You do want 3 move instead of 2 move. You know, that can make a difference, but especially when you're rolling a lot of dice, you're going to tend to get a lot of everything. But yeah, the one part that is more luck-based is rolling these little star symbols, because those will give a bonus to your character based on their special ability, and then you'll re-roll them. So getting a lot of those can really be awesome, and not getting a lot might be annoying. But yeah, honestly, I find the randomness not that big of a factor most of the time, which is both a positive and a negative, because so often, especially in early missions when you don't have that many abilities unlocked, I just find that what my characters do is really kind of rote and obvious, and I almost wish that there were like more things going on with the dice.
So overall, if you're a fan of the Mass Effect series, or you're looking for a quick playing adventure game, I think Mass Effect might be for you. And I'll say that if you don't go for the extras like the minis that seem pretty unnecessary, it's a very affordable game for the amount of content you get. But on the other hand, you might want to avoid this one if you don't like games that have moments of slogginess, because that spawning can definitely cause that. Or if you want huge variety in characters and options and leveling across multiple plays, because it will become a bit samey over time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.